Well, in a case of if at first you don't succeed, try again, critics are accusing President Obama of going back to bat for American unions by renominating two controversial picks for the National Labor Relations Board. That's the board that decides disputes between management of companies and labor, big labor unions. This just weeks after a court of appeals said his recess appointments of these same two people were unconstitutional. Lou Dobbs is host of Lou Dobbs Tonight on the Fox Business Network. Now, here's the thing that amazes me. The Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, this is one level down from the U.S. Supreme Court, says you had no business appointing them. The Senate was not in recess. Those appointments were unconstitutional. The decisions that they've made are of no value now because it's as if they were never on the board, so those all get thrown out. No more decisions from them because they're unconstitutional, and yet the board is still in session. These two are still proceeding as though that ruling never happened. Correct. And then President Obama says, oh, and by the way, I'm renominating them to now go through the formal Senate process that they never had the first time because Harry Reid never got them a committee hearing.
It's starting to seem just a bit like the president doesn't have much regard for that co-equal branch of government stuff or checks and balances. He has a very specific agenda at work here, and that is to move straight ahead with the nominations of Sharon Block, Robert Griffin. There's only one, the chairman, Mark Gaston Pierce, who is lawfully confirmed by the United States Senate.
It's supposed to be five on there.
One man.
Right now there's three, only one of whom's there legitimately.
After the D.C. Court of Appeals ruled that it was unconstitutional, which in the views of many makes all of the decisions they'd made, over 200 of them, absolutely invalid, and they all have to be reconsidered at some point by a lawfully constituted NLRB.
Well, yeah, I mean, if the Supreme Court reverses the lower court, then they're back in business. But the question right now, the only decision standing, and they have not officially appealed it yet, the NLRB, the Obama administration, is the one saying you do not belong on that board, and you never had the authority to appoint them, President Obama.
There are a couple of levels here, several levels here, at which this president is basically telling everyone to go to hell. By not removing those appointees, he's telling the D.C. Court of Appeals, go to hell. By not appealing the decision, he's telling the D.C. Court of Appeals, and in fact the entire country, to go to hell, because he is now operating extra legally. He is operating under his own fiat and his direction to those who are sitting on that board, so-called recess appointees who have been thrown off the board by the D.C. Court of Appeals. He's saying we're going to do exactly what we want, the way we want. And by the way, not only are they sitting there, they've rendered 26 decisions since the ruling of the appellate court.
All of which are now going to be in question, same as the 200 that preceded them. I mean, this is not a service to the entities that have brought their cases before the NLRB, who are now going to have to relitigate everything if the Supreme Court upholds the lower court ruling, takes the case and then
all of the conflicts, all of the cases in which there's been a ruling will not only have to be decided upon by a further court. In this case, it should be the Supreme Court to come to a quick resolution. These companies, these unions are all going to have to relitigate, retest every one of these issues. And meanwhile, we are watching a confirmation process unfold in the Senate on two appointees, national security appointees, the Secretary of the Department of Defense and the head of the CIA, John Brennan. They are at a stalemate here. We have just witnessed what looks to be a death knell for the nomination of Chuck Hagel, if indeed all that is suggested holds up.
But the thing is, the president renominating these two, that is not extra legal. This is what should have happened the first time. He nominates them. They get a hearing. You know, it's fine. The Republicans are never going to like his pick for the NLRB. The Democrats are never going to like the Republican president's pick for the NLRB. But this is now starting to go the way it always should have gone, and they'll get their hearing, right? I mean, is there a problem with him renominating the same two controversial people? They were so controversial, he just decided to give them recess appointments the first time.
They have participated in what has been unlawful work on the NLRB.
Well, that wasn't their fault.
Of course it is.
No, it isn't. I mean, the president says, trust me, I can do this recess appointment. Go do your work.
If the president says, trust me, go do this, and the court says you can't,
yeah, but you know the DOJ is saying, even though they haven't appealed yet, they're saying we're going to appeal, and the Supreme Court's going to reverse that. That's what they're going to tell them.
But Megan, they don't have a ruling or a finding from any lawfully constituted body or agency saying ignore the D.C. Court of Appeals. This is a pure political decision on the part of this president saying, I'm going to run this, and the hell with whoever wants to step up in front of me, including the United States judiciary system.
We will see if they get approved as they go through the process that as it was intended to occur. Lou, thank you.
Great to be with you.